What is going on, people? Welcome to the On a Level podcast, episode 34. Today, we've got the man here, Zig. Is it just Zig?
Yeah, that's right, man. You could call me that. What's
Yeah,
good? What's good?
that's it, man. And I'm interested for this one because obviously you reached out to me and we had a chat over Instagram, and we arranged this to happen, and I want to use this as an opportunity to just find out like what you do and how you got into everything and whatnot. And I'm really looking forward to this. So for people who don't know who you are, can you explain who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I guess, yeah. So I'm Zig, based out of Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do a whole bunch of stuff. So we do artist management. We run record label, distribution. I guess we just work with artists in many different ways. We run a studio, and yeah, just basically we are the artist helpers, man. So yeah, that's
That's
what
it.
we do.
That's it. And could you tell people what artists you work with in particular?
Yeah, so there's artists like Manu, Crooks, Hooligan, Hefs, Creed the Kid, Day1, to name a few, and then there's also other ones like BYs, and yeah, there's a long list of artists that we work with in different capacity,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have different certain companies. So, whether we're just helping them with distro and it's just simple like making sure that Spotify and Apple are across it, or whether we're all the way in,
Yeah.
making sure that their finances are right, their booking agents, all that stuff too. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, nah, that's sick, man. I can understand that as well. Like certain artists you probably have more of a personal relationship with, and then there's others that it's just a little bit more business. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess how we are different in the business compared to a lot of others is that we are of the culture. We are friends with a lot of the guys too,
Mm-hmm.
and even some of them we knew before music, or some of them we knew them when ground zero, and we helped them get to where they are.
Yeah.
We've watched them grow to where they are. So yeah.
Is it important to, they say don't mix business with pleasure kind of thing? Is it important to have a good relationship with the people that you're working with though?
100%. I mean, like, especially if you're managing an artist, that's like a
Mm-hmm.
that's a long commitment. At the end of the day, you guys are working together for years, so no matter what, you're as an artist manager, you're gonna be involved in their personal life too, just like they will in yours.
Mm-hmm.
Any personal problems they have become your problems. Any personal wins that they're having become your wins as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I think with as a manager, you can't shy away from that. And at the end of the day, you want to be working with someone that you mess with as a human being and that you vibe with, because yeah, it is a long-term thing. So yeah.
That sounds like a big thing as well. I agree with that massively. Getting on with them as a person and liking them for who they are, even more so than their music in some ways. Like obviously you gotta
Yeah.
enjoy the music that they're creating and whatnot, but most importantly, you connect on a level. Whether that, because I mean, in all walks of life, I'm sure people can relate to this. There's certain people in life that you just have to deal with in a professional way. Like my line manager
Yeah.
at my workplace, we're not friends like that, but we have a good business relationship. We know what it is, we keep it moving, and we keep it
Yeah.
like that. And then there's other people that you have more of a personal connection with, and you can hang out outside of work, whatever it is. And I think
Yeah.
it's important to have that balance of people in your life, but knowing where you stand with each other and making sure that you kind of both know where you stand. I think that's an important thing. So how did you get into kind of the management side of things in the first place? Was you doing something else before, or did you dive straight into the deep end with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I came up as a DJ. I was
Mm-hmm.
DJing in clubs and parties, and I was DJing for artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing radio. So I wanted to even have a radio platform to where I could showcase artists. I looked up to people like Charlie Sloth, Tim
Yep.
Westwood, even Clinton Sparks and that. Like, just have
Mm-hmm.
a platform where you can showcase artists. And I was always about finding artists, and I moved into a studio that had just a whole bunch of artists and producers and stuff like that. And there was so much talent there, and then I just took a step back, and I'm like, what's missing here? There's no business side right here. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
at that point when I'm just like, you know what? It's missing, it's needed. Let's do it, because a lot of these artists were my personal friends. Even like I said, some that I grew up with before they even did music and so on too. So it's like if they needed it, someone needed to do it. So I just started to jump in, and from there, yeah, just kept flowing with it, and just as time went on, you just got to hustle hard, and you just get better and better. It started with zero knowledge apart from the DJ scene,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, just grew to having a lot of connects and knowing plans, the strategies, and just all the ins and outs, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like you had quite a natural progression there, going from like DJing to radio. You can see the correlation there, and then, kind of how everything linked together into the point where you start working with the artist from a management perspective. It seems that you had quite a natural path there.
100%. Yeah, and that's what I think is what we wanted to be of the culture and the business, because there was a point where the studio, like a lot of people that were not of the culture started to be like, oh, we want in, you know what I mean? Which there's no issue with that, but we gotta have our own people fighting for us at the same time, is the way that we've seen it. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a difficult one when it comes to, things like that, because you've got people who may know the business side of things really well, but they perhaps don't understand the culture, or they don't care for the culture. They don't care about the people. They care about the numbers, which, again, if you want that professional relationship, isn't necessarily a bad thing. But again, I feel like it's important to have that good relationship. So one, you don't get fucked over. Obviously, you want the best for the artist as well as, yourself. But then there's the other side. There's some people who care deeply about everything they do, and they might want to help so much, but they don't necessarily understand the business side of things as much. How
100%.
difficult is it to, get into that fine balance of, business, but also understanding what these artists go through?
I guess it comes. I think a big part is partnerships. Like as a manager, I've come up with a few different partners. Some that had more industry knowledge than me, some that might relate more to the artists. So the industry knowledge guys rub their experience onto me, and then I might rub my experience off to someone who's just real dope with the artist, and then it's like you just bounce off each other in that sense. So that's kind of where we found the key to that, and like consistently we're trying to always expand the team and find those youngins that are of the culture that might have been just like me 5 years ago, who didn't have experience, but now we want to take them on our wings so that it's quicker. They can
one second, bro. 1 second. The connection just went a tiny bit there. Can you go back just a little bit?
No worries. Yeah, like I said, like now we look for youngins out there that have similar skills and might not know that they could be doing this as a career, and then we just want to tap them into our infrastructure where they can learn it quicker and they can get into things and just tap in where they're gonna bounce off us real quick, ask us any questions, learn quicker, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to be passing on knowledge like that, man, because it's something that, you may get a young artist who's just dope. They're so sick at making music. They understand that side of things, and they've got a videographer who knows what he's doing. They've got the producer, they've got the engineer, they've got everyone a part of the team. But sometimes you just need somebody to just help you through the industry side of things, for when things do blow up beyond your own YouTube page. When we start talking about things like sponsorships and then touring and, things just outside of that. It kind of that next level up, isn't it? It's that next step up
100%.
for an artist. And not just artists, producers, videographers, other people like that. Do you work with people other than artists themselves?
100%. I mean, that's the key part of a manager. You're working with everyone, from the booking agents, videographers, photographers, to graphic designers, to you're linked with all the different media outlets and people like that too. So yeah, definitely we're always working with them. And I think that's a big part of it, is that it's not just about the artists coming up. You want to see everyone around them come up too, and that's why we love to see the photographers and the videographers, from the same areas be getting chances and getting looks as well, So yeah,
that's sick, man. And so I assume that you're connecting bridges quite often and I'm gonna put you in contact with this one and I'm gonna hit this one up on behalf of you. I'm sure you're doing that. That's pretty much your job, 100%. Isn't it? At the end of the day.
Very true. 100%, man. And it works vice versa too, Like someone might hit up one of the producers and real early, it's their first song that they're recording in a proper studio, and then that producer might say, hey, this guy's got talent. You should go talk to Zig, he might help you get this out, so and vice versa, so yeah.
That's sick, man. And I'm sure that with what you do, there's wins and then there's losses. How many losses do you have to take along the way? Not that you have to name drop or give it a specific example, but like how often do you go through, maybe through an artist or just as a certain experience where it doesn't work out the way you want it to? How often does that happen?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. there's different degree of losses, I guess.
Hmm.
For an artist, it might be dropping a song and it doesn't reach as much views or plays as you wanted, or for merch or something, it might
Yep.
not get as many sales, and then you might look at even an artist's career and like a relationship that you have on the business side where it might not go to where you want it to, and you have to part ways. I think it happens regularly. No matter what, there's always going to be things that don't work out, but no matter what, you got to learn from that and keep moving forward, and take it into the next challenge. So yeah.
Definitely, man. I think that's a piece of advice for anyone from any level who's trying to get even just in and a part of the culture in general. Like, when those losses do happen, you've got to keep pushing forward. Like, and I know it sounds like such a cliche thing, like when you get knocked down, get back. I know it sounds so cliche, but people say it for a reason. Like, there are people at a top level that their career has been in a weird way been based off of losses. Like, they just keep getting knocked back, and at the end of the day, when they're able to prevail through, they're the ones who end up being legends. Like, you look at someone like Cursor and how much adversity he had to go through to then get to the point he's at. If we look at the UK, someone like
100%.
Gigs, shows were getting shut down.
Yeah.
Like, just everything was like, it seemed like everything was against that man, and then now that he's at the other side of it, he's known as one of the UK legends, so
100%.
I definitely say that, the amount of people I get DM me and they're like, similar to the experiences you mentioned, like, my first track come out and I only got 50 views, and I'm like, big man, that's better than what I got 6. Yeah, so take that as a win. Like, and I guess it's that
100%.
perspective, people are looking up to their favorite artists, they're looking up to their favorite influencers, and they're looking at the numbers that they're doing, and they're looking.
Yeah, they just see the end. They see the end result. Sometimes they don't see the journey there. It's like, nah,
they don't see it. And some, don't get me wrong, there are some people, there's a small percentage of people that are able to put one track out and just blow. Like, and they are able,
yeah.
They just have that X factor, they just have the right connections, the right time. It might just be a moment. But then 90% of the people that you follow, 95% of the people that you look up to and whatnot, they had to put in hard yards. And it's easier now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, we're in an internet era now. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without like YouTube and everything. Like, the conversation we're having right now wouldn't probably be possible 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So
100%.
the
Very
resources
true, man.
available, man, you can't see it as in a weird way. Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not difficult either if you're willing to put in the hard yards in a strange way. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's
100%,
definitely
yeah.
possible, man.
Yeah, there's more people living off music than ever, and not only that, you're now seeing different territories now gain, like the UK, for instance. I've been watching that scene for ages. Now you guys have you have an ecosystem within the UK where like there's a lot of people that are making good money off this, and it's not just the artists, it's the producers, the managers, you got all the people in the record labels, it's good, we're just following that trend now for the urban scene here now, but you also see places like Paris, Amsterdam, their scenes are wild, man. It's crazy, man, and it's all blown up over the last 10 years because of this internet and because people are being proud of where they're from, so.
And I think that's sick. That's such an important thing, being proud of where you're from, being able to rap or sing in your own accent, being able to wear your flag or wear that shirt that represents you and your culture, you know what I mean, and talk about your experiences and not have to always relate it to the American scene. Like, you know what I mean, everything's based on the US, that's always been the biggest market, especially for hip hop and rap. So for it to now, for countries that, as you say, have their own ecosystems, have their own cultures, I think it's so sick to see. And the amount of times I hear people say, like, I'm so proud to be British because of our British scene and where it's come to and where it is now. And still, whether you're from the UK, Australia, France, wherever, like, we're still tiny compared to America. Like, we've got to remember that we're still, America still is where it's at if you're talking like finances and views and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's sick that people are able
even
to
coronavirus too.
Yeah, apparently so. Apparently so, which is mad.
Oh, man.
But
it's wild.
For places to have their own, to be self-sustainable and not have to rely on somewhere else, I think that's so sick. And so, for a young person, a young creative who's trying to get into this, what piece of advice would you give early doors? Like, like one thing that you think about what you was doing and you're like, I so wish I did such and such from the start. Like, what piece of advice would you give?
Yeah. I'd say like for me, if I started younger, I would have liked that.
Hmm.
And if anything, maybe yeah, again that in the right internship somewhere, where that first year or two you can learn directly off someone else, who's already embedded in the industry, So that's something where I started though, I started already where I was managing artists. We were already it was go time. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I had the ability to just jump into the field and be on go. And at the end of the day, that's we grinded and we grew. But for a lot of others, they might not be able to represent a dope artist that's already making noise from the jump as well. So
Hmm.
they got to get that experience up first and foremost. And yeah, I'd say that's one step to go. And just be around. You got to be at events. You got to go meet people. Networking is a key to
Hmm.
this as well. You got to know people. Just because you meet someone doesn't mean they're going to give you anything. But you've met them now. Maybe in a year later, you've got something to give, and they've got something to give. At the end of the day. So,
Hmm.
that's some keys there.
Touching on that's a good one, I think, to talk about. Networking. It's something that I've never been great at. Especially in person, and that's weird for me because I would like to say I'm better sociably in person than I am over texting or like a video call or anything like that. I prefer being in person, but when it comes to me being at events and open mics and things like that, I'm never in the not so much not in the mood, but I don't know. I just don't feel I'm as good naturally at doing that. Being able to just like, oh, I see you performing, yeah, that's it. Like for me, and this is only me speaking on behalf of myself. I get a lot of fake energy at things like that. Because I get people coming up
Yeah,
to me, my bro, your thing was so sick. Da, 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 da. Yeah, we should link up sometime soon. And sometimes I just smell that fake energy. It's just sometimes
yeah,
I get the
yeah,
vibe that you're just trying to get in with me because of the connection or for the social media follow. The amount of people who go follow me on social media, and I'm like, do I have a reason to? And I've had people be
yeah,
like, well, fuck you then. And I'm like, I don't have a reason to follow you. Like, I've had other people
yeah,
come
for
up to me and
sure.
they're like, yeah, we should work on a track. And I've had to like awkwardly be like, yeah, big man, I'm not like feeling your style like that. And I'd rather say it straight up than be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then just air them. Like, I'd rather say it
Yeah,
straight
hundred
up. But,
percent.
for me personally, I've always had the difficulty in like doing that because a lot of people, for me personally, just feel like they give off a lot of fake energy. Have you had to deal
Yeah,
with that yourself? Kind of people approaching you and you just get the sense that people are only getting in sweet with you because of your connections or because of your social currency.
yeah. No, I think people know me when we're out and stuff too, and I never see it as that. I see it as I respect if people appreciate what I'm doing,
Oh, of
because
course, yeah.
I guess our role and the role that I'm trying to take now is more behind the scenes too. It's not
Mhm.
in the limelight
Yep.
necessarily as well. Like obviously I was a DJ and I was pretty well known here, but I quit radio and doing all those things so that I could be more in the background trying to help
Mhm.
push. So if people notice what I'm doing, that's a respect thing. And
Mhm.
I remember me when I was trying to hustle, I was trying to meet all these people. I remember that hunger. So
Mhm.
I always try to give people time. Sometimes
That's fair
it's
enough.
hard to do that,
Mm.
but I always say just hit me up an email. I'm gonna read it. I'll read every email. I'll tell you that. I might
Mhm.
not respond to some, but I'm gonna read your email. So
Mhm.
make sure that there's some juice in there or whatnot.
Mhm.
A lot of the people that send me their track, even if they've got 10 followers, I'll listen to it. I
Mhm.
might not give feedback and stuff, but I'll give you a quick minute. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think I'm always about that because I know how important it was, because there could be that out of the 10 that send you something, it could be that one that's that next
Yeah.
star that
Oh, of
just needed
course.
someone to hear it. You know what I mean? So no matter what, I feel like if you're talented, you need it. You need people to actually help you up regardless.
Mhm.
And if you're not there yet, you might need someone to just tell you, you got to do this or you got to
Yep.
go that way, just to help you go in the right direction too. So, but I feel you like there is that level of like the fakeness and stuff. I feel I don't like approaching people. Me personally, I don't
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
approaching
Yeah.
people because I don't like approaching them on the basis that I'm only talking to you because you do this, and I
Yeah.
feel you that more goes to me sometimes,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
sometimes
But I
it's
guess
like
it's different because you're from your perspective. That is your job, is to network with people and know as much you can and kind of even if you're not best friends with someone, to be at least aware of who they are and kind of just be aware of your surroundings. I guess that
yeah, and
plays into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think although like because I have that feeling of yeah, although like you said, for me networking isn't my strong thing too, but
Mm.
I've done it and I've been able to grow. But now because I don't necessarily enjoy the fakeness of it,
Yeah.
I aspire to work hard so that people know who I am or people introduce me to other people and it's more organic. So you know what I
Yes.
mean? As
Big
opposed
word.
to that's what I work towards. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like oh, like you've got a G. Like when we go to the States, we got some peeps that when they were here, we looked after them. Then when we go over there, they're like, yo, these guys. They're introducing us to people. They're like,
Hmm.
yo, these are the guys from Aussie. If you're out
Yeah.
there, make sure you know them. Then you're already in a convo, rather than going up to them, hey, how you doing? Like,
Yeah.
so an intro is always powerful. It's more powerful than a random approach. So
Oh, of
yeah,
course, and a big word that you were using there is organic. That's a big word for me. Just keeping it natural, man. Because, I mean, I guess my sense of not being so open and willing to work with like random people approaching me comes from early doors, like before even I was doing the Aussie reactions. Like when I was just doing UK stuff and things like that, I'd have people approach me or people DM me or email me and they'll be like, yeah, and make all these promises that were never fulfilled. And I got to the point of I ain't trusting no one now, and that's the point I got to. There was so many people hitting me up, and it just we never seemed to run through with whatever idea was dished out. Yeah, we'll work together. And then I would be, obviously, as you said, like that hungry person, like willing to do pretty much anything to just get that little bit of exposure, to just get the ball moving. And then it would never happen. And then you'd be kind of shut down a bit. And then somebody else comes along, all right, this time. And then you get told that. And after so many times of having these false promises and empty statements, you start becoming a little bit like, well, why do I need anyone else anyway? They never come through for me. So I feel like it's important that if you do approach someone or if you do hit someone up and present an idea, that you do stick with your word, or at least get to the point where if you don't feel like that idea is going to work anymore, be able to say that to someone, not just go cold on someone. The amount of people that have approached me and said, let's do something, and then they've not followed through on their end, and I've gone cold on the idea, and then they may hit me up in the future and I'm thinking, yeah, but the last time. So I feel like it's important for any creative, if you say you're going to do something, keep in good communication and good contact with that person, whether you go through with it or not, because I feel
100%.
like that's an important thing.
100%, man. Very true, man.
But so keeping it organic. So you've been reaching out to people, you've been working with a bunch of different people within the industry. Where are you looking to take this going forward?
I think a big key is infrastructure, like just helping build the infrastructure is what we've been doing. It's basically just having infrastructure that artists can tap into and create careers, you know what I mean? And how we do that is by expanding the team. The more members of the team, the more artists we can start working with as well. And then we can just help more artists up. And a big goal is to just help artists break internationally, whether that's the States or the UK, Europe, just, like build a base here, but then take it internationally, So that's a big key for anyone that we work with. So, yeah.
So I'm assuming I'm going to be right in saying this. You're a busy man who's got a heavy workload. Am I right?
Pretty much, man. Yeah, we stay busy, man.
What happens when you grow to the point where you can't handle that on your own?
Well, it's already at that. Like, I have business partners that I'm working with, you know what I mean? It's never just me, So on most artists that we work with, there's at least a pair of us that are working on that artist in general. Sometimes there's three of us, or sometimes there's four of us, So that's always the case. So, but as it keeps growing, like I said, we want to find those youngins that are hungry, that can come tap into our infrastructure on the business side, that then the artists can then tap into them, where they're just learning off us and feeding off us, And then when they need something where they need us to push, then we can just press that button, So, yeah.
And are you at the head of that, or are you somewhere in the middle of that? Like, where do you stand with that in terms of you say you work with people around you? Are you at the top of that chain, and then you've kind of got, or do you not see it in terms of like a hierarchy? Are you all like on an equal level, just helping each other out?
Yeah, I'd say that I'm one of the visionaries within my place, and then I have partners that are next to me, and then we have guys that are under us. So we're at what we're doing is at the top, but then we also have we have business relationships with some major companies too, where it's like we're 50-50, we're talking to heads of the company over there, but at the same time we're business partners, you know what I mean? So Yeah, that's
Which
kind of the
doesn't mean
structure.
you can't learn off of other people. That's like a big thing, you know. Just because someone's below you in terms of their job title or whatever it is, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean you can't learn off of those people. You know, I'm sure.
100%.
Do you find yourself learning off of other people constantly? I'm sure that's part of again what you do.
100%. And as I get older, you know, the youth is going to be more important. You know, like, you know, as you get older, you need to tap into the youth. You know, I got guys that are always sending me music. I used to be the one always looking for all the music. Now that I'm working, now there's younger guys that are sending me music, knowing, hey, you might be interested in this. You know, so they're putting me on when I used to put them on. You know, so definitely, man, always learning, man. And if the only way that you're going to keep growing in this is if you don't act like you know everything. You know, there's always something to learn, no matter what. And especially in this music industry, it's forever evolving. You know, from streaming to everything, like new platforms. Look at TikTok; it's just blown up over the last year. Now you got to think about that. Then what's next? You know, there's always something new that's coming. You know, so yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. You know, being able to be humble within yourself, but also, you know, being open-minded enough and willing to learn off of others, you know. And you know, there's people that come through and they learn one or two things and they think they know it all, and again it kind of rubs off in a negative way, especially in your personality, you know, especially if you're based around working with people. You know, I think it's very important that no matter what level you're at, you're able to, you know, be accountable. You know, when you make a mistake, like, be like, yeah, I got it wrong, and be willing to learn. You know, and that's interesting, because I want to touch on something that you said earlier about, you know, like, if you wish that you could have went and learn off of somebody else, and you wish that you know, from a younger age, you wish, you know, is it better to do your research and do all your learning beforehand, or is it better to kind of just jump in the deep end and learn on the job? Like, what's your perspective with that?
I think it's more about opportunity. So no matter what, you got to take the opportunity that's there, you know. And like I said, like, not everybody that wants to get into this business is able to work with an artist that's already starting to do numbers that the industry is interested in and stuff too. Like, for instance, with I started working with Manu, Crooks, who, you know, we've known each other since we were teenagers. We used to ball. We're from the same Ghanaian community. And then as he got into music, he just started getting hit up so much that he needed management. And then that's where I stepped in. So he's already getting hit up, which then helps me grow my network and do everything that I'm doing already. So that's an opportunity that I was able to jump into at that point, you know. Whereas like others, you might not have that. So taking an internship, for instance, might help you meet some people already and start getting in the industry. And let's say you work an internship at a larger company, maybe it's a booking agent or a major label. Now you have that attached to your name, where you're like, I'm interning at this place. Now you're using that as your business card, you know what I mean? So that can help you. So I don't think there's any right way. I think it's more about looking into the opportunities, and to be realistic, there's not going to be 10 opportunities that are there. There might only be one or two. And if there is two, then pick which one you feel is best. But sometimes there's only one, you know, or sometimes you're the one that have to create that opportunity. So yeah.
And I'm sure you understand that, you know, obviously the rap scene itself, as it starts to grow, you know, it's going to get to the point where it's oversaturated. Some may argue it already is, but behind the scenes, it's almost a small world. You know, there's a lot of people that have worked with each other, and I'm sure you start to talk to and see the same familiar faces over and over again.
100%, man. It's very true, man. And like, that's why you just look at, you're like, you see people that move a bit, you know, you're like, you know, I'm gonna see you, you know, like, we hear, you know, that artist is now gone, but we hear, you know, like,
But that's why it's so important to, you know, give off the right vibe and just be, you know, organic, be natural, you know, just be yourself, and, you know, just have the right intentions, I guess is what I'm trying to hit at there, you know. I mean, like, if you're in it for the wrong reasons, I'm sure it's gonna be shown now or later, you know what I mean? At some point, you know, true colors are going to be shown. But if you're in it with the right intention, and you know you've only done right by people, I'm sure that naturally over time, man, people are like, oh yeah, you've worked with this so and so, and you know what, they've told me about you, and you know what I mean. And then you start creating more connections that way. It's all about who you work with, and you know, the importance and the power of word of mouth and networking. Like, it's crazy, because when you think about it, you got 2 people, you know, you got 5 people, you know, let's say a producer, engineer, videographer, management, like, and another artist, let's say, and then you got somebody else like with something equivalent. them two people work with each other, and then those 5 connections and those 5 connections join together, and then all of a sudden you've got 10 to 12 people now that are all familiar with what each other does, you know, and some of them 2 or 3 of those get in contact, boom, and then that branches out, and then those 2 or 3 with those 5, and you know what I mean. So I'm sure that things start growing very quickly. Like, for you in your field of work, is it a slow process in terms of how quickly things grow, or does it happen quicker than you kind of expect in some ways?
For the process, you mean of like working with an artist, or in what
The
sense?
process of, you know, how quickly things grow, like how quickly you go from talking with one person to then all of a sudden you've got 50 different contacts that, you know, you're keeping in
Yeah.
touch with or you've worked
Oh
with.
yeah. So back to when it kind of started.
Mm.
Yeah, like I said, it grew pretty quick on my end, and I think with the Australian industry, it is pretty small. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
oh, of
a
course.
lot of it, a lot of the business side is based in Sydney, so like you know we're already in the right city, and yeah, it grew pretty quick. But then you know we took that next step and we started taking trips overseas. You know, we went to the UK a few times, we went to the US a few times. You know, and there's just like a limitless amount of people that you can meet regardless, you know, and it
Hmm.
just keeps expanding. And now that it's pretty much 5 years in, it's crazy. If I thought 5 years ago that I'd have this kind of in what I was doing, I wouldn't believe it for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't believe it. But you know, now that we're seeing it's possible, I think the sky's the limit now. You know, so yeah.
No, I hear you, man. So obviously you're looking to get to the point where things start growing internationally and people start, you know, working with. Are you looking for your artists to be working with artists from like the UK and America? Like, what do you mean by internet? Is that what we're looking to do, or is it more so in
Yeah,
terms of shows and touring?
Yeah, 100%. I guess in both senses.
Hmm.
You know, if you start working with artists over there, that already helps in a marketing way, helps put your name out there, and then helps flow into touring and stuff too. So yeah, we're definitely looking at UK features. I just got a text that we landed a verse today, but I haven't heard the verse yet, so I'm waiting for the verse.
Waiting for the verse.
You know,
Okay.
when I see the verse, then I'll believe it. But that's gonna be a big collab. And yeah, we got a few collabs in the work, man.
Are you able
Yeah,
to tell
it's
us who
just
that
that
is, or
time.
have you got to keep that on the hush hush?
I won't tell you who it is, but I'll tell you that one of the artists that we're working on a few collabs is with Hefs, Hooligan Hefs
Okay.
in the UK. So look out for that real
Because
soon.
obviously Hef's made the connection with H, obviously,
Yeah,
doing the Taste remix with Nerve. When you was
yeah,
you a part of that at all, or was that somebody else separately?
yeah. I didn't line it up, but I was a part of just making sure that Hefs did his side of the thing. But
Hmm.
that actually came through Sony. The Sony A&Rs over here,
Yeah.
they got hold through the marketing team, Patrina and Hal, and they thought that Hefs would be a good look. So then they reached out to me to get him on, and then yeah, that worked out. And there's
Hmm.
actually another remix coming soon. That's the Rover remix. That's gonna be a vibe
Okay.
with Simba. So that one should be coming out in maybe a couple weeks. We could probably tell you about that one. That's actually Hef's lips and hooks on
Mm.
that. So that's gonna make some
Mm.
noise.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah,
sure
then
that will.
we got some original ones coming too. So yeah, it's gonna be a vibe.
Because obviously, Hefs and Lips linked up with DJ Discretion to do their track, and that was a
Yeah,
big moment. You know, I see a lot of people excited for that one. Obviously, we've had Hooks collab with Hefs before on the Fame track, which was big. That was a big track.
yeah,
And that video
yeah,
did really well for me as well when I covered that as well. So that was big. And Hefs seems like am I right in saying Hefs is someone who's quite open to collabing with the right people? Like obviously he has to fuck with the
yeah,
artist and
hundred
whatnot, but he's
percent.
open to collaborations.
Yeah, he's easy going. If he fucks with what you're doing, like you know, there's no harm type thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, he's down for stuff like that, man, for sure.
Speaking of open till late, only yesterday when we recorded the podcast, but he was saying about how Hefs is a smart guy. Like Hefs knows what he's doing, you know, and I
Yeah,
agreed with him massively. You know, just taking one look at the moves that he's making and just how he carries himself. You know, just because someone's talking gang shit or talking about their experiences in the hood or prison or whatever it may be, you know, doesn't mean that they ain't got a smart brain on their shoulders. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
has anyone ever surprised you in that way? You know, you've met someone and you've obviously rated them, and then they've almost surprised you in how much they know or how well they carry themselves.
Um, yeah, I think Hefs is obviously one. He does his thing, and how he just how he thinks strategically, even how
Mhm.
his rhymes and stuff like that, his bars.
Yep.
Now that we're very much involved in the creative, like we're actually there in the studio and watching him write his bars. Like
Yeah.
it's actually it's fun. Like you hear it, and when you actually take it line for line, you're like, all right, this is hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people let it fly over you. So he's definitely one. Manu, like how he gets down in the studio and like just his branding and how he dresses and stuff like that. That's like something that no one can really touch. Like
Mhm.
his style is unmatchable. That's definitely something that because I've seen him before. He had the style too.
Yeah.
So out of nowhere, he just started being stylish. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, I see you. I see
uh,
you. Yeah.
yeah. And then I guess like even Leroy, for instance, when
Mhm.
I started working with him when he was 12, man, like he just like his brain was just not a normal 12-year-old man.
Yeah, yeah.
He was just like it was just like he was super mature for his age, and then once he got in the booth and because the music that I found him on was different to when he got in the booth. The level just like kind of once he was around some of the guys that we put him around, like his songwriting just stepped up to a whole nother level. I'm like, all right, this is not just like you've got the whole package because your songwriting is next level too. So
Mhm.
that really surprised me as well for someone so young too. That was crazy. So
It's amazing
yeah,
how
man.
far that can carry you in some ways, having that title of this kid's only 13, 14, all the way up until, when you get around 18, 19, 20, people are going like,
Yeah,
raw, this kid's so young and look what he's doing. Like that was a big thing for Dave over here in the UK, when he first passed, it was like
yeah,
17, 8, just touching 18. And people were like, this kid's 18 writing this,
yeah,
when he has his track,
yeah.
My 19th Birthday. And it's like, the kid's 19 and he's thinking of these things already, when it,
Hundred
when an
percent.
artist is able to show a level of maturity, through their music and how they carry themselves from young is massively like it's almost like a massive marketing point as well. Like obviously you don't
Hundred
walk
percent.
around stating their age and every little thing they do, but people
It's
naturally end up carrying that.
it's what you said, like the word of mouth thing.
Mhm.
Like no matter what, the best form of marketing for an artist is word of mouth marketing.
Mhm.
If you're
Easy.
if you're dropping something, if you're doing something so interesting that someone wants to go tell their friend when they meet up with them, that's like that you can't pay for that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if someone goes to someone like, "Yo, check out this kid Dave, man, he's doing this," like even the what's the award show that they just did? It's
Uh,
the
the
Brits, was it?
Brits. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, like I showed about 20 different people the performance of Stormzy and Dave.
Cold. Yep. Cold,
Like
man.
that. I'm like, yo, have you seen this? You haven't? No, you need to see this. Sit
Yep.
down and watch this,
Yep.
man.
Yep. Yep.
And that's word of mouth right there. So you've seen the same thing with things like The Weeknd when he started,
Mhm.
like all these different guys like Kendrick Lamar, like it's the type of thing that when you get it, you're like, yo, have you heard this? You need to hear this. So and that's a big part of like if they have that young age, it's like, yo, have you heard this kid? You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is,
It's
like
powerful, man.
For someone like Manu was like, have you heard this guy out of Australia who's making this music and making waves? Now it's even like 1-4 and Hefs. Like, have you heard UK drill? I mean, Aussie drill now. There's Aussie drill, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
talking point that you go tell your friend. So yeah.
What impact do you think the 1-4 third collab? I just reacted to it just before we hopped on here. Like, I don't know if you've heard it yet, but what kind of impact do you think that will have? Do you think some people are overhyping it? Because I see some people, they see certain people link up or they see certain things happen and they're like, they've made it. And it's like, and then over the space of weeks, months, or however long it is, you realize that it was nice, it was good for them, but it weren't as big as you thought. Likewise, there's other things where you thought, that's a, like, it's a nice
Yeah.
link up, but then all of a sudden it does massive things for them. Like, where do you think that fits in? Do you think that's going to be as big as some people hype it up to be?
Um, I think it depends on the song. If people really mess with the song, like
Of
no
course.
matter what, that point of like 1-4 and ASAP Ferg is the talking point,
Hmm.
but then the song is what's going to carry it to live longer.
Hmm.
But regardless of that, that's just another step in their career. Like
Yep.
it's not like they've done that, then that's it. Now it's like what's next, and that's the
Hmm.
hard thing for an artist. It's like it's always like what's next.
Yep.
Even when you hit a milestone, it's always about all right, now what's
Yep.
next. You know what I mean? So
And you,
that's
yep.
that's a good look, and that's a good thing to tick off. and hopefully it does a bunch of noise and stuff. But then now it's like, all right,
What's
how do you
next?
back that up,
Yeah.
or what's next? You know, so
And I'm sure you
yeah,
understand this working with artists, that when an artist releases a song, they've still got another anywhere between 3 to 20 other songs that they're ready to release or that they're working on. And I'm sure you hear it time and time again. I hear it more and more. An artist will drop something and then we'll speak, and then they'll be like, yeah, and that was made however long ago. This new one that I've got, listen, this is what we've been cooking recently. And I understand it. Like, the music that I drop was written however many months ago, if not up to a year or two ago. And then I'm sitting there like, but the thing that I'm working on early now, when that comes out, listen. And then it's kind of that endless cycle in some ways, you know? It's always waiting for the next thing to come out. And I think that most, if not all, successful artists kind of don't really take in the moment, you know, especially the ones who really are thinking long term, because they're always thinking of the next step, and they never take that moment to be like, look, this is what it is here, like right now, this is what it is, you know. And I think that's insane, you know. Some artists are just, their brain and their ambition is moving faster than their actual steps. And I think that's just insane, man, how quickly, you know, things move in some ways, you know. You're like, you're dying for something to come out, and then it releases, and then you're like, wow, and now I've got the new thing. Whether it's just a single, whether it's an EP, a project, a tour, it could be anything, man. I'm sure you understand this pretty quick in that regard.
Yeah, very true. And I guess even seeing the different artists, you know, with the whole area scene and this new scene that's kind of come up from light, a lot of the artists were just creating the song and then dropping it straight away. Like, a lot of them they didn't have a career yet, so they're still doing what they're doing, and the music thing was on the side. But now you're being able to see, like, that was Hefs, you know, like early on he would make a song and drop it, you know, even like the HP boys, you know, that when they made Engineers, literally they made it, then they're like, all right, let's drop this, you know, and even Blueprint and things like that. But now you're starting to see these guys have more time to perfect their craft and stock up tracks and have them backed up, so that there is a plan and that you can tackle it, you know, and that you are 10 steps ahead, you know what I mean? Because I guess that's one thing too. You will start to see gaps in some artists because they are stocking things up, but then once it's go time, they're going to be bang, 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 you know? So, yeah.
I have a theory, and I want to see if you agree with this or not, that if you are a young artist, you're a small artist, you know, let's say you've not put out anything yet, it's better to just drop your content there and then rather than hold on to it. And then as you start to grow, you have to be a little bit more strategic with how things work. I get so many DMs of, I'm ready to make an album, and I'm like, okay, have you got any singles out already? And they're like, no. I personally disagree with that, just in this era right now, only because things move so fast. Like, the internet, just like, you could put out a song and it is not forgotten about, but you know what I mean, people move on from it very quickly within a matter of days. And so you're better off, those 10 tracks, let's say, that you made for an album, drop those as singles, take your best 5, let's say, and just drop them once every 2 weeks at least, or once every month, or, you know what I mean? But kind of spread out singles until you gain a following before you do a project. Or would you disagree and be like, no, if somebody wants to drop a project straight away, go for it? Like, what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to get people to listen to a project right now, especially for a new artist. But at the same time, no matter what, a project will live if it's amazing. But if you're early in your career, it's probably going to be rare for you to drop an amazing project. You know what I mean? So, like, that's why, like you said, dropping those singles, I think, is a good look. I think, excuse me, about to sneeze.
No worries. You know what? I understand this struggle because I struggle with, I struggle with hay fever. And right now in the UK, it's starting to hit summer. But with this whole coronavirus thing, I walk outside, my eyes start watering up. I'm ready to sneeze. And I'm like, I can't sneeze right now. Are you mad? If I sneeze in public, man's getting arrested right now. So I'm understanding the struggle right now. But yeah, go ahead.
Nah, I feel you. But yeah, I think a big side for a new artist, and my advice is always like, stock up the tracks, work out what your brand is and things like that, you know, like record 50 tracks, because then if you record 50, now you can pick your best 10 out of 50 rather than make 10 and then you got your best 10. That's it, you know what I mean? So that's one side. And like you see a lot of artists that get to the market early, and it's like, you know, in a year or two, they're going to look back at that like, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? So sometimes it is about being patient, But at the same time, there is that kind of gift and a curse where you could be dropping early on, and then you could have that person find you that you needed to find you, that's going to help you get to that next level as well. So, there's no right way to do it. That's the one thing. Like, there's no one right way to do it. But I think, yeah, what you said, don't be dropping a full project. It's going to be hard for people to listen to that whole project. Like you said, drop a few things, test the market, and then from there, when you got a base to listen to your project, then yeah, give them the project.
Because for me, I mean, an album, there's two types of albums. There's a type of album that kind of timestamps a point in your life. It kind of sums up what's going on in your life at that point and what the current sound is in whatever genre of music that you're making. Or there's the conceptual album. They take a concept, they take an idea, and everything is a perfect puzzle piece linking into each other. And that's kind of how artistic and how creative can you be, and then also, or as well as having a good idea, how well can you execute that with good music. I mean, ultimately, I think that's a good thing. There's no correct way of doing things. I think different things work for different people. I look at someone like 1-4 or even HP Boys, and I look at those two groups for an example, and I feel like they've dropped enough singles now to the point where I'm ready for an EP. I wouldn't expect an album from them, but an EP I wouldn't be mad at hearing, like that. And then there's other 100%. Artists that I think they're just so early. Someone like Young and Lips, I still think he's early enough that, for me personally, and this is only my opinion, of course, I think he's someone who just needs to drop a few more singles first before I ever want to hear a bulk set of music. And don't get me wrong, I could be completely wrong. I could have 1-4 releasing singles for the next 5 years and Lips make an EP next week. You know what I mean? Like, I could be wrong, but that's just how I personally perceive it. And I'm sure that an artist, if you have a good ear, you understand where you're kind of at in your career. I think
there's
timing
that,
is a
and
big
then
thing.
there's I guess even saying that HP Boys about to drop their one tomorrow. That should be a vibe. But I think as well is like with all those artists, Lips, HP, 1-4, Hefs, they have a core base that there is at least 100,000 people that are going to listen. So if they are able to actually create that body of work that is dope, people are going to listen. And if that body of work is dope, then it's going to live on. You know what I mean? But there's also the side of, like, you see a lot of rappers in the US, like, I like to watch like someone like Rod Wave. You look at Future, you look at even Juice WRLD, you look at all these guys, they just drop project after project after project. And, it's kind of like you said, that timestamp. If there's gems in there, you love them. If not, it doesn't matter. We're making so much more music that we're moving on, So it's kind of, there is that gift and the curse. And, at the end of the day, one thing that we do with some of the artists is like, we'll just analyze artists that we believe are like them. We see, all right, what's worked for them, what didn't work for them. Let's pick little pieces out of that method and let's apply it here. So yeah.
I mean, you got different types of artists as well. You got someone like a Kendrick, who I don't want to hear Kendrick drop a single that's not a part of an album ever. I only want to hear album Kendrick, because To Pimp a Butterfly what is it, 80-60? What's the album I'm thinking of before that?
Section
60.
Section 8.
Or Section 8 or whatever, that one. Cold album as well, but To Pimp a Butterfly is the one that first springs to mind when I think of Kendrick, even Damn, and that's all I want to hear from him is just album. Selfishly, I don't want to hear a single from Kendrick unless it's part of a project, But then there's somebody else like Chip from the UK, I love Chip. Chip's probably my top 5 artists right now, but I've never resonated fully with an album that he's dropped. But his feature verses, his one-offs, even the diss track sagas, it's just different source. And so there's different people. There's certain artists that all you want to hear from them is projects. You want to hear that bulk work. You know how things want to fit together. And then there's other artists that you may love, and as an album, you've never really resonated with a full album. You've just liked the select few songs. And especially, that's the era that we're in now, is the playlist era, the Spotify era in some ways, What's 100%. Your most popular songs and can it make the playlist, As I've gotten older, I've appreciated albums in the structure that they're in. Like, I don't like listening to playlists too often. Like, when I'm out clubbing or things like that, that's my time to enjoy the best of the best. But in my own time, I prefer to take an album and listen to it in the order that it was set in. Even down to the skits and the extras. Like, I feel like that's important. And that's just how I like to consume content. But I know I'm probably 100%. In the minority there. I know a lot of people now, it's just, what's the most popping songs from each artist and slap them in a playlist,
100%, man. Yeah,
How
it's very true, man.
how important is it for an artist to get a song in a playlist like that?
I think it's a part of the journey. It's good to get streams. I guess for independent artists coming up, you can get on playlists that can vamp your plays by 100,000 or more. Which then equates to actual income coming in, which then you can either use to live or you can reinvest into your come up. So I think that's very important. I think there is a big emphasis on artists trying to get it and worrying about it like as if it's the BN, if it's like the BN end all, like whatever that saying is. I think I
Yeah,
said that wrong, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
but which is not the case. No matter what, like playlists aren't necessarily gonna build you a fan base. That's not gonna help you tour and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It is definitely a good look. It's similar to radio play. You can get radio play. It's not gonna just that's it. Your career's out there. You know what I mean? Like it's just part of the a piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I think it's important. It's a good look. I think it's a good what do you call it? It's a good cosign from a company like a Spotify or Apple. You know what I mean? To show that they're onto you. But yeah.
no, I hear that, man. I mean, I always remind people that artists don't eat a full-time living off of streams. There's only a select few artists in this world that can live off of their Spotify streams. And those people who are able to do that, they're still making their money off of album sales and touring. They are the two biggest sources of income. And even album sales now, as hard copies are becoming less and less of a thing, more and more artists dropping their albums and their projects without hard copies. It's just, the only way you can purchase it is through iTunes or, your Spotify premiums, your Apple Musics and things like that is, the only way that they can source money in that regard. So shows and touring is a massive, massive source of income for these artists, That's how they make their, whether it's their annual salary or whether they make enough money just for a couple months, whatever it is, that's their main source of income. So with coronavirus and a lot of shows being shut down, how heavy has it affected some artists?
Yeah, I guess that's a big downfall for a lot of artists. Like there was festivals coming up. There was Groove in the Mood. There was even Splendid in the Grass. We don't even know what's going to happen when the summer hits. I heard Wireless just got cancelled. Like no matter what, that's checks in people's pockets. That whether that's what they needed or that's just something that's extra. It's definitely money that could have been there. So it's definitely going to affect artists. I think another thing with a bunch of our artists and even us ourselves, we're about to travel overseas. We're about to go to the States. We're about to go to the UK. So now we can't do those things right now. So it's definitely affecting things, but at the same time, we're blessed to be in the industry we're in because that's only a couple of our streams that are affected. We still have these other streams that we can now focus on, and we can still make moves so that when things do open up, we're still pushing. Whereas like if you work in the live entertainment space, it's like you pretty much bang. If you work in a nightclub space, if you're a DJ that you rely on nightclub gigs, you know what I mean? It's kind of like that's your only stream that's now gone. So it's like, now what, So yeah.
No, I hear you, man, and that's a big one, man. Artists losing out on income and things like that. I just had a thought in mind, man. I've completely lost it. There we go. For artists who's is making a healthy wage. I've seen this discussion a lot based around artists, but especially footballers at the moment. It is football. It's not soccer. It is football, but yeah, football players. And people saying, but they're all right. They don't need, like, they can take a pay cut. Like, they're still earning 300,000 a week or whatever it is, And my response to that, personally, I've thought to myself, but when you think about it, all right, let's say you take a player that's earning 300,000 a week. But their lifestyle is accommodated to that 300,000 a week. They've still got bills to pay. They've still got family. You know how many footballers that do come from nothing, and then they're sending money out to their family back in Africa and around Europe or across the world. Like, there are people who are others are relying on them. It's not just them. Like, all right, cool. They might have to, maybe not get that new Mercedes that they were looking for, but maybe they got grandma back in home country to be taken care of, like that. So people saying, but they've got enough money, they don't need to worry about anything. Well, maybe their family is relying on them and their source of income. Maybe they told their mum, look, mum, you don't need to work no more. I've got your rent covered. You know what I mean? So it's not just that person's lifestyle that we're looking at. That again, there's only, especially in
True.
Australia, you know, there's not every artist that you follow is living off a fat wage. Like, more of the
100%.
artists that you follow are working normal 9-to-5 jobs, just like yourself. Like, you've got to remember that there are artists that are getting hundreds of thousands of streams on YouTube, but they are still packing boxes for a living, and that's fine. Like, they've got to eat, they've got to pay their way, they've, as we were saying, they've got people to take care of, you know. And so for anyone who's like, oh, but they're all right during coronavirus, they've got rapper money anyway. Not all of them do. You've got to remember, man, these people are still
100%.
real people, man. And yeah, I know that's slightly different for the big American artists and even now the UK artists, but there's plenty of artists still in America, the UK, and especially Australia, where they're not on as much money as you think, you know.
100%, man. No, it's true, man. But yeah, it's like, it's just one of those things, you know, like, you just gotta look at the blessing that you got health,
course,
and you know, no matter what,
health,
we're still here, you know.
Money can't buy you health, and especially with this corona thing, no cure. That's why people are panicking. No matter how rich you are, you're not safe, you know. And so I think that's a massive thing to remember, man. Health is an important thing. But
100%,
we're gonna wrap this up here. Is there any last message you want to leave people with? Anything you want to plug in particular?
I guess, just like, everyone keep hustling, you know, whether you're in Australia, UK, let's build that bridge, you know, let's make it happen, you know. It's time to really make this connection go, you know, like, I guess that you guys have been on the Australian thing for a while. It's time to see some Australian artists out there doing their thing. And, you know, big up for everyone out the area. Keep hustling. You know, we're about to be on the map, you know. Shout out to the HP boys. Shout out to Hefs. Shout out to Manu. Shout out to everyone who's making their noise right now. You know, it's a good time for Australian hip-hop, you know. Like, we have a lot of sub-cultures, sub-genres. And, you know, it's time to let the world know and make sure that we're making this a career and that we're feeding the fams and stuff, you know. Yeah. There's some last messages right there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Pleasure having you on the podcast.